We're gonna talk about it. Waldo, Geraldo, Faldo. He's dead meat.
Even the 976 numbers hang up on him.
1-800 fat chicks. It won't even take his calls, Steve.
Like, hey, Izzy, this kid thinks he can lift more than you. Oh, you think you're better than me? Huh? It's go time.
Happened in the 90s.
My question to you, this is going to be interesting.
Oh, God.
All right. You got an escape room, right?
Okay.
And in that escape room, you got Waldo, Geraldo, Faldo from Family Matters.
Mm-hmm.
You got Jazz from Fresh Prince, Cole Brown from Martin, Eric Matthews, Boy Meets World, Michael Kelso, 70 Show, Kelly Bundy, Married with Children, Rose Nyland, Golden Girls. Who makes it out that room?
Oh, man. I mean, this is the cream of the dumb, Steve. Waldo's out. I mean, we've seen. We're going to talk about it. Waldo, Geraldo, Faldo. He's dead meat immediately. He might be the first to go. I think if we're talking survival, I'm making sure Rose gets out of there alive because I love her. And I mean, Kelly, we got to just hope she makes it out alive so you can continue the legacy.
It's on them though. We can't help them. We're just like we're in a remote room.
Basically, we're just watching this like Saw. Basically,
they're like our gerbils in the cage.
I
Like,
still
man,
think Rose is going to get out. I feel like she's got
Rose?
some tenacity. She's old. She knows how to do it, Steve.
The wisdom will guide her through.
Exactly. Kelly then might be out because she's going against some bit larger gentlemen. I feel like Cole actually might survive. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but Waldo's done. I mean, that's just gonna be the case no matter what. I feel like Jazz is gonna make it out. You know, he's gonna get out. He ain't that dumb.
I don't think Waldo or Jazz would understand the assignment. That's just me though.
All right, well, who were the other ones? Did we miss any? I guess I'm just thinking Rose
Eric?
is going to be the Eric might make it out because he has some weird like evil white dude energy that's hidden under the surface.
And Michael Kelso. I felt like Kelso would cancel Kelly out. They would cancel each other out.
They
Because
just start having sex or something, and just they would just the room would collapse on them or whatever. Like the final seconds are. Yeah, I'm gonna give Eric. I don't like this. It sounds very racist. I feel like only the white people are gonna make it out, but
I didn't want to frame it that way. I was afraid you would think that, and
yeah.
I don't want the people thinking that.
No, that's absolutely not. If I had, I mean, I think I'm gonna say Jazz because I feel like he's a wild card. He seems dumb, but all those tosses, I feel like he might just have gotten some CTE and go into some like Chris Benoit rage, something like that, you know. And Eric, obviously, I feel like again he's got some sort of Epstein Island thing where he's got a lot of. He's going to be like hoarding secrets for the government or like killing people. He's in like the Illuminati. And Rose, I feel like she's playing it dumb, and she's just going to slit people's throats. She's going to be like, "Oh my heart," and somebody's going to be like, "Can I help you?" Fucking.
Hey, it's those sweet old ones, man. You keep your eye on them.
Hell yeah.
That's how they get you.
Yeah, that was a good question, though, Steve. I like that kind of question. That's good opening material right there. Nice.
I appreciate it, man. I really feel like Waldo would be staring at the wall, or it would take him like a couple minutes, more minutes than the rest to even like read the instructions on how to get out of there.
Yeah, I don't know what happens if you don't make it out, but yeah, he's just not. He's gonna be looking at like a spot on the wall or something, or like, what's that? That's not a good Waldo impression, but
cool.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there you go. Gonna be a lot of blood, but I mean, you're not really missing a cancer cure out of that room, Steve. You know what I'm saying? So at least we're not missing out on that.
This is Steve G and Mad G with Happened in the 90s, a show where we talk about what happened in the 90s. So get out your house party tapes and your Party of Five posters and do a little dance. Ooh, feel the groove like this, y'all, like that, y'all. The party's at the fun house. The party's at the fun house.
Throw that dice, Steve.
Well, today, my friend, we're talking all things 313 in the 90s. Starting off in 1990, Kid and Play would release their second album, Funhouse. And this is when they were on top of the world, shitting on everybody.
Just shitting on everybody, Steve. Kid and Play.
Kid and Play were on top of the world, Matt. Like all the kids I knew, like growing up, man, if you had a high top fade, you wanted to see how high that could go. And like Kid was the marker. He was like, man, like, can I get to that level? It was like the 90s Afro. You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
did
Back
anybody get any higher than? Did he take it to the full limit, Steve? Did he go terminal velocity on that?
mine was pretty high up there, but it never reached the Kid level. Like Kid, I've never met a person who had a high top higher than Kid.
Like, it was just a marvelous thing to look at, Steve. To be honest with you, somebody who had, what I had at the time, a shitty bowl cut.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can really do with that. I could have thrown some glue in it and tried to Wayne static it, but it's just not the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
As long as your bowl cut was crispy, Matt.
I mean, it was bowled up, Steve. Sort of took it in a different way, also, where I did like an undercut and still had the long bowl cut top, but it made it almost
Not
more
the
of a
malfunction.
Muppetish thing. Like if you got it wet, shit got weird. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I rolled in the '90s, Steve.
Hey man, that was the look. If you're a white kid, you had the bowl cut or the Eric Matthews, the Sean Hunter. You're a black guy, you want the high top, man. And also, this is around the time Kid and Play had their cartoon. I think that it came out that following year, either this year, 90 or 91. Around this time, House Party was released as well as the House Party soundtrack.
So they were on top of the world at this point.
Hell yeah, man. So shout out to Kid and Play. 1992, Family Matters airs season 3, episode 21, Stop in the Name of Love. Laura had enough problems trying to give Urkel the brush off. Now Waldo is the one who's head over heels in love with the Winslow girl, especially after she tried to encourage down on his luck Waldo.
I mean, this is the nightmare, Steve. This is it. I mean, this is the nightmare in either, like, regardless of sex. You know what I'm saying? When you just say something nice and then it just turns into a whole hullabaloo, Steve.
Yeah, you take their niceness for granted.
Yeah, and I mean, right when we get this whole episode just full of drama right from the beginning, Steve, because we start off to meet Lieutenant Murtaugh. This is not my Murtaugh, Steve. This is not a detective Murtaugh. This is not Danny Glover. This is just some guy. This is Lieutenant Murtaugh. But he's hanging out with Carl and he's got a flex because he just bought himself a cherry Firebird, Steve. Costs a lot, but that thing is crisp.
Yeah, while dressed like Bagger Vance. And
Yeah,
it is a
why that though? Why was he dressed like he was going out in the 30s, Steve? Like, what the fuck?
because he's obnoxious. Maybe we should have added him to that escape room.
I mean, Murtaugh is going to get out because he's a dirty cop, Steve. Where did this money come from? To buy a Firebird? Buy a cherry Firebird? I'm look into that, Carl. Get
Yeah.
internal affairs into this one. But, Carl's like, oh, it's nice, man. He's like, man, it's a significant chunk of my income now. I'm in over my head, but it's worth it. All that money I spent's worth it because this is what I've wanted my whole life. And as he's just like looking at it and basking in the glory of that Firebird, we hear a crash. And unfortunately, it seems like Murtaugh's car is gone, Steve. Grandma comes in. She's pissed somebody was in her spot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where she usually parks. So she comes in with like a fucked up license plate and is like, hey, Carl, here's the guy's license plate that was in my spot. Find him.
Oh. Hi, Lieutenant Murtaugh. I like your ascot.
Yeah, dude, he's up to his ascot and bills for this thing, Steve. But
Hey.
I don't know if he's above Carl. Like, I don't know what the chain of command is at Chicago PD or if, like, this is his boss, but this is a terrible situation to be in now because this guy, this is going to be some beef going on here. But,
Yeah.
you got to keep it cool, but it's not a good look for Carl. Let's put it like that.
And then we cut into that classic theme song.
Shout out to Little Richie doing that little, like, cool ass little kick spin in the beginning of it.
Oh, yeah.
He's got some moves, Steve. It's a signature Chris Farley move. I don't know. That's like what he does in Chippendales. That skit. That's how he. That's the signature Chris Farley. But Richie, he's got some skills.
with the Jerry curl mullet to
Hell
boot.
yeah,
And
that's dope.
now we cut to Rachel's, and Waldo and Eddie, they're having a powwow at their local hangout, his aunt's place.
Mm.
And Eddie's like, man, let's go try to pick up some chicks. And Waldo says, like, I think we get a hernia. Let's start off trying to bench press some little kids.
It ain't even what he said. I think he said the M word, Steve. But I think he did in the episode I saw. Anywho, I saw the unrated one, I
Whoa.
think. But yeah, I mean, Waldo's not. I would assume as a kid with a mustache, he would be a ladies' man because that's an instant conversation starter. But he's not. Eddie goes to like hit on some chicks, and Urkel's he's an employee at Rachel's. He comes up and he's basically like playing bartender to Waldo. He's like, "Hey, what's up, pal? How you doing? You look kind of down in the dumps." And Waldo's just like, I'm just tired, dude. I can't get any chicks. I can't even talk to chicks. And Urkel says something, and Waldo talks about going out with some chick named Vicky, who I guess is like the town.
Skis.
And her nickname's Hickey Vicky, but he got so worked up trying to ask that chick out that he just puked on her. And I mean, that's not a way to get into some draws, Steve.
Even the 976 numbers hang up on him.
1-800-FAT chicks? They won't even take his calls, Steve.
And Steve's like, man, my man's down bad. So he goes to Laura and enlists her to help, give him some words of motivation, some lovely words from a loving lady. I don't know why he picked Laura, but
He could depress Richard Simmons.
yeah.
After Urkel says that, Laura like goes over there and she's like, you got a lot of qualities that I like. You've got a face that fits great on your head. Like that's the first thing. He's like, oh wow, cool. Tell me more. Again, and then she just kind of is like, well, you're a nice guy. You're a very cool dude. Just kind of gives him some nice compliments to make him feel better, Steve.
You're sweet and sensitive. You're courteous and you're kind. You really mean that? She said, like, yeah, I really mean that from the bottom of my dark heart. And what I did forget to mention is that Carl and Murtaugh, they're actually at Rachel's. They're sitting at the little bar. They tell Rachel, like, hey, Carl, tell her who ran into my car. My mother. And he's cracking jokes. He's like, yeah, Miss Knievel. Yeah, don't worry about her. She's fine. Miss Winslow, yeah.
Bad. If I want to see the taillights, I got to open the glove box.
I mean, from the sound, I'm surprised Granny made it out okay, but yeah, you can tell Lieutenant Murtaugh's still a little stuck in his craw about this whole Firebird situation. But as that's boiling over in the background, Urkel comes over to check on Waldo after he got a little, ego boost from Laura. And he's like, so how's it going? And Waldo's like, man, it's all good, but I think Laura's in love with me now. So it's 0 to 10 with Waldo, Steve.
Oh.
What? Cut back to the house after Urkel's closed up Rachel's, and he comes in telling Laura, he's like, yo, Waldo thinks that you're in love with him. So, like, what did you say to this guy? And she's like, I just paid him a couple of compliments. They're not going out, but Urkel's very territorial over this lady, Steve. And I don't get it.
He wants to be the number one de facto.
Pass her over, Steve. Pass her over, Urkel. I keep saying it's hard to do this because you're Steve and he's Steve. I love how he's like, you don't know the power of your beauty. Like, he's paying this woman compliments, Steve. This is a woman screaming. She's just pushing him to the side. Again, another woman, another person that we talk about that's in that Corey Matthews level of person, Steve. She's a piece of shit.
Yeah, Christopher Wallace said it best. Who's filling them with octane? Got them gassed up? Steve walked in. He left the door open, and he's having a conversation with Laura. She says, day Waldo falls in love with me, I'll eat my science book. Yeah. And then Waldo comes in with a bouquet of fake flowers.
She's got to eat that book, Steve. She's got a lot of eating to do. He calls her love. He calls her his love, which I love. I mean, that's coming in pretty hot, Waldo. But you know what? He's under the impression she's in love with him. And even as a poem, roses are red, violets are blue. Here, and hands her those that bouquet of fake flowers, Steve. Luckily, he gave her these fake flowers because they last longer if you exchange the water every day. You just got.
Every day.
I mean, you might be right, Steve. Well, I mean, he's working with less than even a. He doesn't even have half a deck of cards, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, not even a quarter.
He's got the Joker, and that's it. He basically asked Laura out. It takes him a while. He has to even just like steady himself, look the other way, and like kind of say it to the wall.
Yeah.
But he finally asked her out, and Laura, against all odds, is like, yeah, sure. And now, I mean, Urkel's in his, he can't believe it.
Yeah, he's over the cliff now, man, because he's thinking that she's going to turn him down gently. Like, all right, brace yourself. And when she says yes, he's just through the roof.
I love how Waldo instantly becomes just like a nice, pimpish dude and walks past Urkel. And Urkel's like, in his feelings. And Waldo's like, love means to never have to say you're sorry. So I'm going to take your girl. Yeah. I mean, this
Trey songs.
Yeah. Now he's feeling himself, but Urkel can't believe it. Waldo leaves because he got what he wanted out of this deal, and now Urkel's like, "Yo, so you're just gonna? I've been trying to get this from you for years, and you just tell me no." And she's like, "Well, I know you can handle it because you're like smart and you're aware of yourself, so you don't need my validation. You can just get over it." But he can't.
So I'm being penalized because I'm emotionally stable.
Yeah. I mean, this is real life, Steve. I mean, this is actual. I mean, it might not be emotional stability, but leave it to the lawyers of their world to just make the wrong decision every every possible way. Cut to Rachel's. We're mid-date. I gotta say, Laura looks a little frazzled. Waldo's dressed to the nines, and unfortunately for Steve, he's got to take the order. So, but he's not really being happy. But he's like, "Hey, bub," a lot of that energy.
If it isn't the new sweethearts, Waldo and Laura, well, what will you be having?
And Laura, she asks, like, is it okay if I get cheeseburger and fries? Waldo pulls out his wallet. He's like, how bad you want those fries?
Shout out to the chain wallet also. Shout out to Waldo just having a crispy chain wallet. But he's like, you know what? We're out here. This is a date. Get the fries, honey. And then, Steve's like, what do you want? And he's like, water. Because, the coffers are a little low. And I've been here too, Steve. I've been here. I've been in that half-baked Dave Chappelle where you're just like,
I was just about to say,
the radar trying to find money.
Motherfucker said ice cream, B.
Laura, while they're waiting for that cheeseburger, Laura's like, you want to dance? And Waldo's like, yeah, hell yeah. It seems pretty cool about that. Pops a quarter in. Some like nice, sexy little jam comes up, which is like a nice, perfect slow song, Steve, just to get extra close. But instead, Waldo goes into, I mean, what I can only compare to like a Corey Feldman dance routine where he's throwing it all out there. Every move in the book.
Yeah, the dance ain't matching the music. And Laura, she's embarrassed now. She runs back to the table with her hand over her face, like, oh, shit, what did I sign up for? And so Laura, she unplugs the jukebox too in the process. And then they talk about the movie that they went and saw. And he's like, man, I really want to go see Jif. And Laura's like, what? Hold up. You mean JFK?
I know how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he apparently whatever movie they did go see, he was booing the whole time. So maybe they went to see The English Patient, Steve. I don't know. Maybe some we're talking about later. But it just wasn't a great date, And Waldo becomes very self-aware at this point in the conversation. He's like, you know what? This just isn't working out. We're not a romantic couple. Like, we just need to be friends. Showing some real maturity here, Steve. Just laying it out there and didn't ghost her, didn't just keep going and just until it blew up in everybody's face, like I have personally. But I mean, at this point, if you look at it on the opposite side, the lawyer's got to be like, yo, what the fuck?
How did this happen? And like, as they say goodbye to each other, he kisses her hand, but now her ring is stuck in his teeth.
I do like also because she does say something to him after he's like, we're done. And he's like, can you stop begging? Like he even gets shitty about it. But he does pull like a Rico Suave and just try to give a little smooch on the hand, gets his teeth caught in the ring, which is insane. And then we cut a little bit later, and the ring's off Laura's hand, but it's still stuck in his teeth. And he's like, I'll get it to you tomorrow. You know, one of those.
And then Steve pops up, and Laura tells him, Waldo just dumped me. And immediately his mind goes to, oh, so now that Waldo's out of the picture, I'm your number one reject?
I guess so, Steve. You are a piece of work, Laura Winslow. Jerk.
She's the biggest bitch in the family.
He's got that number one reject spot, Steve. But then, to bring it full circle, we see Carl and Lieutenant Murtaugh come into Rachel's. They're still talking about this whole car crash thing that's happened. And Carl, like, is after hearing all this abuse that Lieutenant Murtaugh's been just hurling at his mom, he's finally like, this is over with. You're not going to talk about my mom about like this anymore. I mean, he throws like a hissy fit kind of. It just like mans up, is like, stop.
Stop dissing my mom.
Yeah. And he
I did
demands
like
damn apologies, Steve, like a man should.
I did like how Murtaugh said, I called the DMV and find out her license number is 7.
Nice. You got a couple of Def Jam old people jokes in there, but it's about to get physical because Carl's really getting pissed off, you know, and he's like, all right. And Steve shows up and he's like, come on, guys, there's got to be something that we can do here. How about this? Let's sit down. I'm going to give you a slice of Rachel's delicious pie that we have over here free of charge. And you guys can have a nice piece of pie and figure this out. Turns out the lieutenant loves pie. He picks a whole pie out. He's like, that's great. I do love pie. And actually, here you go, Carl. Here's a pie. And he tries to hit Carl in the face with it. But Carl's got, cat-like reflexes, obviously. He avoids it, but Steve takes one directly to the face, Steve. It's a full-on facial.
Yeah. I mean, all those years of patrolling these Chi-Town streets, man, his agility came to play. And so now it's Carl's turn to return the favor. And it's like, you know what? I got a pie for you too, sir. And so, yeah, once again, right into Steve's kisser.
Yeah,
And so,
that's tough, Steve. What do you do at this point as Steve, though? You got 2 cops here. It's not like you can get buck on these 2 dudes.
but hey, Steve don't care at this point. He snaps. He's like, look, I've had it with this. Now he takes his glasses off. He means business, but he can't see that well without his glasses. So he takes a pie and he decides to return the favor. And as he does that, he smashes Laura in the face as she leaves the restroom.
Damn. And then obviously now he's panicked that he's assaulted the love of his life, possibly losing that number one reject spot that he covets so much. They're out of the picture now. So now it's just Murtaugh and Carl again. Now Murtaugh, there's 2 pies left. They're fucking, this is a family business and Carl's just shitting all over that. So put that to the side. Murtaugh gets another piece of pie or another whole pie and is like, you know what, Carl, I do owe you an apology. I should respect you your family as much as you, because I do respect you so much. So time for me to eat a piece of humble pie. And dude just clocks himself with a pie just as for restitution. So now you think everything's cool and you're like, Carl's like, oh, that's awesome. We're good. And he's like acting all cool and there's 1 pie left. And he's like, you know what, Lieutenant? And then he just slams Lieutenant with the other pie, Steve. You think he was going to take it to his little misdirection here.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be pied up, but Carl Winslow ain't going to play like that, Steve. You talking about his mom? You're going to get a pie to the face.
Facts. Carl, he's the only one that didn't get a pie to the face in this. But if we're talking about Aunt Rachel's pies, I'll take any of her pies all day, every day.
Hell yeah. Throw any of that into my face, Rachel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, girl.
Damn. I love how in every 90s show, there was just like this place that was not just a restaurant. It was just like the hang. because Rachel's turns into like a club.
In a way, yeah. I mean, and it's not just for the kids. I mean, adults apparently go there too.
Oh yeah, dude, they were all twerking on that dance floor when Waldo was Geraldoing all over the dance floor.
Oh man,
That
but
was
Laura, you're such a douche.
I just don't get it. Like what the hell? And luckily, Steve Urkel does get him a nice little tenderoni. He does get a little some on the side.
And so does Waldo. He actually traded up. Eventually he would get with Max, who I would prefer anyways.
There you go. It's karma. Laura, sad. Cat lady.
On that same day in 1992, American Me premieres in theaters. A Mexican-American mafia kingpin is released from prison, falls in love for the first time, and grows introspective about his gangster lifestyle. Directed by Edward James Olmos, starring Edward James Olmos, William Forsythe, Pepe Serna, and Evelina Fernandez.
Yeah, this is something I saw later in life, Steve. You see, like, the inner workings of Mexican gang life, basically. And I mean, most terrifying to me is the rape scene. It's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that. And something I found out about reading about this movie was that scene in particular just kind of stuck the Mexican gangs wrong. They did not like that, and they thought that was a disrespectful thing that Edward James almost put into this movie. And apparently, and this has been corroborated by none other than Danny Trejo himself,
Yeah.
many people have died as a result of that were involved in this movie at the
3 people.
Mexican gang members. So that's pretty nuts.
They take that stuff serious, man. You're not going to challenge or question my manhood. And 3 people actually died who acted as consultants. And Danny Trejo, he's got his foot in all the different parties, man. He was in the acting world, but he's really about that life back in the day. He was.
I
So
mean,
he actually
look,
knew some of the real guys.
you see, I've watched fucking Dust Till Dawn. That's early Danny Trejo. I mean, and even before that, that dude looks,
The part.
yeah, he looks the part. So shout out Danny Trejo. Maybe you just make sure that you don't put anything that disrespectful to the Mexican cartels, because it seems like they're on their business, Steve, and they will not handle that very well. But this movie's cool
It's
for
good.
what it is. I like it. And it's got a lot. I mean, it's got almost. We got Mr. That fascia that everyone loves. We get William Forsythe, who's like an unsung legend, I feel like, in Hollywood. He's a great actor.
And I mean, I think we all just are captivated by a good gangster film, man. And this is one of them. Like,
Yeah.
American Me is considered like a hood classic. Like a lot of rappers have this as their favorite movie or in their like top 5 lists.
Yeah, and it's like one of those, it shows the whole thing, like the rise and fall. It's like Scarface in that way, or like any good, like sort of crime drama. Yeah, dude. And again, got some pretty rough prison scenes that it's just tough to watch. It's not something you want to watch regularly. Let's put it like that.
And shout out to Edward James Olmos because the man's still alive. So I don't know if there was a agreement in the behind closed doors that we don't know about, but I mean, maybe he outlived some of those people that were sending death threats.
I guess that is scary though, where you're like, damn, like I was just making a movie.
Yeah.
People just straight dropping around you because of this thing, but that's wild. I was amazed to read that because it's a pretty rough movie to watch in general, but
Yeah.
it's not like that he was painting gang lifestyle as this great thing or whatever, which is the point. But yeah, that's an interesting tidbit about it behind the scenes where that's pretty crazy.
On that same day in 92, My Cousin Vinny premieres. 2 New Yorkers accused of murder in a rural Alabama while on their way back to college call in the help of one of their cousins, a loudmouth lawyer with no trial experience. Directed by Jonathan Lynn, starring Joe Pesci, Ralph Macchio, Marissa Tomei, Mitchell Whitfield, and Fred Gwynn.
How do you feel about this movie, Steve? I enjoyed it. It's kind of like if Columbo was just a Guido. It was just Joe Pesci as Columbo, basically.
Just about anything Pesci in the 90s I love, including this. I don't really understand the hoopla as far as like getting all those accolades because this was 92 and a lot of great movies came out in 92, man. I believe Marissa Tomei won a Best Supporting Actress for this, if I'm not mistaken. And Fred Gwynn, this was his last acting role. This is Herman Munster, man. And he was I also remember him from Car 54, Where Are You, which predates
Nice.
Munster.
Hell yeah.
Um,
Love it.
yeah, but yeah, I want to say he passed away not too long after this, or maybe it was before this.
I didn't really like this because I think my parents watched this and I was just like watching it when it came out on video or whatever. And I'm like you, I didn't understand the hoopla at the time. And it's one of those movies. It's fine, and like I do remember a lot of it, but just like how he's just like this like he's not the typical lawyer, obviously. So he's just using. He seems dumb, but he's coming up with all these ways to like prove the testimony of these people wrong. Like
Yeah.
there's something about like how long something time like took to cook, like grits or something. I remember that part of it.
Hominy.
Yeah, it's basically just like that. That's where the Columbo part comes in, where it almost seems like he's stumbling into success, but he's really just sort of, he's just not this polished guy, but he's very smart.
With an Ivy League background. Yeah. I think it's worth a watch, especially if you're a fan of Joe Pesci. This isn't one of my preferred roles of his, but it's still a solid film, man. And the supporting cast, you got Karate Kid in it, you got Herman Munster in it in his last role.
That's
And
nuts. That was his last role. I love me some Herman. Whatever's it. What's that guy's name?
Fred Gwynn.
No, nah,
And
nah, Rod.
and that guy's, I think he's from New York. Yeah, he's NYC. He was born in New York City, man. But to pull off that rural Southern accent is flawless, man. And Marissa Tomei, she's hot.
Yeah, she is for sure. Hottie. So cemented '90s hottie.
On that same day in 92, Shakes the Clown premieres. Shakes is good at his job as a party clown when he's sober and shows up. 5 druggy clowns frame him for the murder of his boss. Directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, starring Bobcat Goldthwait, Julie Brown, Adam Sandler, Blake Clark, Tom Kenny, and Robin Williams.
I wanted to watch this and I didn't have time, and I've heard about it, but I honestly have never seen this movie, Steve.
It's a fun movie, man. It's funny. It's kind of like a clown subculture. Kind of, they're treating clowns like a gang, and it's like if a mime is around, it's like Bloods and Crips, like, oh my, a mime, let's beat his ass.
I
You
love
know,
that, dude.
you're encroaching on enemy territory. And Bobcat Goldthwait, he's a drunk, and Julie Brown is like his steady. But Tom Kenny, he's like the evil clown, Mr. SpongeBob SquarePants,
I love
and like, yeah, he actually kills the boss of the clowns. But they frame Shakes. They frame Bobcat Goldthwait. So now he's on the run, and Adam Sandler in a very small role. Actually, no, it wasn't. I wouldn't say very small. It's Adam Sandler in one of his earlier roles, man, and his character is hilarious. I think his name is Dinky Clown, and Blake Clark, Farmer Fran. He's Stinchy the Clown, and if you could see behind me, he's wearing a dress. He's like a cross-dressing clown throughout this. It,
fuck? Farmer Fran?
Farmer Fran, Sean Hunter's dad in Boy Meets World.
I didn't know Sandler ever did anything like this before. That's crazy. I didn't know he was involved in this at all.
And he was still on SNL. And this is 92. So, yeah.
I love that. I mean, Bobcat Goldthwait has had a very interesting career. I mean, he's directed a lot of weird fucking movies, very dark movies. I mean, that's
He's a weird guy.
Yeah. But hell yeah, dude. I got to check this out. I mean, this is sort of like in the top of his catalog, and I've always heard about it. I've just never seen it.
It's on Amazon. It's
Okay.
definitely worth a watch, man. 1995, Radiohead would release The Bends. And man, this is that melodic shit that I know Matt doesn't care about. I tried to put you on in college, and you had this energy that was like, man, turn this airy, eclectic bullshit off.
I want to feel, Steve.
Yeah. If he ain't doing it for the nookie, I ain't trying to hear that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I just never got into Radiohead, but I know they're good. I mean, fuck, they're a legendary band, but it just wasn't my thing, Steve. That's why you're here, to educate my ignorant ass.
I think you just refuse at this point. We're 40 plus. I tried in our 20s and in our late teens, and it's not your bag, man. But I will say, man, for the chiefing,
Okay.
it's perfect. It's a great partner for the chiefing, man, and it is ambient. This is a precursor to the Radiohead days, the Amnesiac days, where they start getting into that like techno sound, using the synths and whatnot. The Bends, it's like a transition from their early days with Creep and doing the acoustic stuff into their future projects, man. And this is classical. And like it's been 5 stars by all the different like blogs and all of that, man. Just one of the many masterpieces from this band. Radiohead is in my top 10 for sure of all time.
Well,
So
this is Steve's segment about educating Matt about music. There we go. Thank you, Steve.
oh, Tom York, man, he's a gem. 1997, Seinfeld is airing season 8, episode 17, The English Patient. Elaine hates the English patient. A beautiful woman mistakes George for her boyfriend, and an older man challenges Jerry to a weightlifting contest. Hilarity ensues.
Oh, it does. And just get into it, Steve. Before we talk about this just review of Elaine's of English Patient, have you ever seen this movie?
I have not, no.
I don't think it's as bad as she thinks. It is as kind of a snooze fest, but I guess this is I guess the opinion of most people. But it won a lot of awards. I'm just sticking up for the movie. I'm sticking up for Ralph Fiennes. I'm sticking up for Willem Dafoe. Sticking up for some very like artistic sex scenes and a guy burnt to shit that just is telling this story about himself. So that's what it's about, Steve.
Sex in a bathtub, it doesn't work, Matt.
It doesn't. I mean, especially for a guy my size, Steve.
Oh,
Yeah, no, it's in more ways than one. And this is one of like the episodes. I don't know if this happened a lot, but it starts off. We're not in a club, Steve. It's just Jerry and Elaine on the subway talking. And he's talking about that ad for the concession stands that you see at the beginning of movies, or at least used to. It's Nicole Kidman talking about being at the movies is the autistic experience, but before it was just let's go out to the movies, one of those.
yeah.
He does point out something where in that the box of Raisinets eats a box of Raisinets, and it's almost cannibalistic, and it's just not right, Steve.
It's perverse.
It is. I guess there's some other point about like maybe it's not like the Raisinets are buying it for something else, but regardless, I find it distasteful.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the diner, and George is eating. He's just having a bite to him like by himself at the counter, and this gorgeous blonde woman comes up and is like, "Oh hey," and she thinks that it was her boyfriend. She's like, "You look exactly like him," and George like that's what he takes from. He's like, "Wait, a guy that looks like me got that?"
Looks like me?
Yeah, and she's like, "Well, and he just can't believe it. I mean, this is a beautiful woman. They meet. There's almost like a little nice little like there's just like a little eye contact. He feels great about it, but he's obsessed with this man who's basically him in an alternate universe that's getting hot sniz, Steve.
Was able to pull a hottie. And then we cut to Jerry's, and Kramer's there as usual. And he got Jerry a number one dad shirt. I don't know where he got these. Did he? I'm sure he mentioned it.
It fell off a truck, I think, but it's too
Yeah.
small for Jerry. It's a medium. Just like a nice little, it almost seems like something you'd see on a refugee that they'd wear, but it just says number one on it. Jerry's like, yeah, okay, whatever, I got this. But Kramer, as always, needs a favor, and he's like, "Look, you're going down to Florida. Can you pick me up a couple of Cubans? I'm going to arrange for them to get delivered to your dad's. So do me a solid." And Jerry's like, "Yeah, whatever. I'll fine. That's fine. I'll pick up those Cubans for you." So note that, Steve.
And we cut later. George, he comes in and he tells Jerry about the chick he ran into at the diner. There's this hot chick, and she's dating a dude who looks just like me. I want to know what the difference is. Like, maybe he has money, maybe he doesn't. Maybe there's a small thing I can change, like a mustache or a monocle or a cane. You think she's dating Mr. Peanut?
I mean, could do worse.
Yeah.
It's packing, Steve. Again, George obsessed with this mystery man that's getting hotties. And again, what does he got to do? Because it's like she said he looks exactly like him. So it's what's the riz to bring it to current times? What's this guy's riz? So cut to the movies. Elaine's on a date with Blaine. Great name. I love that. That's what a douche name.
That's such a douche name.
Um, She wants to see a comedy called Sack Lunch just based on the poster alone. And I don't know what it's about. She can't tell what it's about. She's like, are they shrunk? Is it this? But just as they get up to the front to buy the last ticket, and also Blaine's like, well, don't we want to go see English Patient? She just is not into the idea of that. It seems boring. She's not into it. Sack Lunch looks like a laugh riot, but it sells out right when they get to the front. So they're committed to going to see the English Patient now. And Elaine's clearly not enthusiastic. Let's put it like that, you know?
And then we cut back to the diner. George runs into this lady, and her name's Danielle. He runs into her again, and he wants to know, like, so you said I look like your boyfriend, huh? Well, actually, you don't look a lot like him. You're actually a little taller, and you look like you're in better shape than Neil. So now George is really like, whoa, hold up. Like, what's really going on?
What? Yeah, now, I mean, his brain's going into overdrive because now he's gotten fully like a commitment from this woman that this guy's just some ugly chud that's somehow pulling this. So maybe he's got a huge cock. Maybe he's hilarious. I don't know, Steve. Danielle's a hottie though. So whatever this Neil guy's doing, God bless.
Yeah, he even asked for Neil's number.
Yeah. And she's obviously, so that's hilarious. He doesn't want her number. He just wants Neil's number. He's got to get the bona fides from the dude himself. Cut back to the movies. We're outside post movie, and Elaine's just trashing English Patient. She's like, "Can you believe how boring this thing was? This piece of shit." And as she's like drilling this movie, I guess these three chicks who were her friends show up, and they've been affected. This has been a life changing movie for them. They love it. They can't stop talking about it. Blaine, the date, seems to love it too, but Elaine's like, "Are you kidding me? What did you like about this fucking piece of trash?"
How could you not love that movie? Because it sucked.
Yeah, dude. She's very staunchly against the English Patient. Critics would beg to differ, but, whatever. So now we cut to Florida. We're out of state. Jerry's in Florida visiting his dad. He's getting the tour of what's it called? Del Boca Vista. It's this luxury just resort. His dad's also rocking that number one dad shirt, and he's really like thrilled and almost touched that Jerry got him the shirt. Obviously, he wanted that validation, but I got to be honest with you. A medium, Mr. Seinfeld's pulling it off pretty well, Steve. I got to be honest. He's looking pretty good for an old dude, but he's showing off the shirt. He's showing off this luxury gym that they got. And he's like, sees this dude in the corner just getting it, Steve, just getting it fucking old school jail style, American Me style. And I love how his dad's like, "Hey, that's Izzy. What's his name? Izzy something." He's like,
Mandelbaum.
"Yeah, I wanted you to meet this guy. This guy's a beast. Look at all those weights he's lifting."
It's like it doesn't look like a lot. And then another guy that's sitting back on the bike, he's like, "Hey, Izzy, this kid thinks he can lift more than you. Oh, you think you're better than me? Huh? It's go time."
This is the Mandelbaum call, like Back to the Future. Don't call me yellow fucking thing, Steve. It just sends him into a tizzy. And he now Jerry's in a competition with this old man to lift weights. The guy's like, "Yeah, I'd love to see you lift this weight." And finally, Jerry's like, "Okay," and he just lifts the weight. Steve, it looks like a pretty decent amount of weight, but Jerry, he's a stout young man. He curls that easily, and Izzy is like, "Okay, you think that's hot shit? Fine, watch this. Let's go. Let's take this up a notch." And he tries to deadlift. It's a pretty decent amount of weight, but that's when we hear a crack and Izzy's down, Steve. Izzy's down.
Somebody call the ambulance. But apparently the ambulance is already picking somebody up. Like, it's like, well, I guess there's room for more.
Yeah, it's a nursing home, Steve. They're there basically constantly. So Jerry crippled a guy just trying to show off, or that's basically the indication.
The narrative that
he
they're
had
running
just
with.
basically challenged this dude. Izzy's down. Also Izzy's like a crepe master. He owns some sort of crepe restaurant. That's something that we'll find out about later too. So We cut back to the movies again. Elaine's, I think, going to sack lunch. She sees her three friends who are back to see the English patient for the second time. It's that good. She's like, seriously, again? And when then, to add insult to injury, fucking Blaine, he's there too. He didn't call. He said he was out. He was busy, but he's been hanging out with these chicks watching the English patient.
I think Elaine tells her, like, man, that movie sucked. Like, I can't believe you guys watched that. Elaine's like, see, that's what I'm talking about.
See, this is the kind of attitude I got to deal with. Do you believe this? And, she's like, you guys, this movie sucks. And Blaine's just like, you know what, Elaine? Whatever. I'm out. I'm done. And so he goes away with, like, I guess to have a foursome with these fucking three chicks. And they leave with a little bit of shade too. But I guess she's buying tickets to go see Enjoy Sack Lunch because Blaine on the way out's like, enjoy sack lunch, bitch.
Yeah. Cutting back to Florida, now Jerry's getting grilled by his parents. Well, at least his mom. How could you do that to Mr. Mandelbaum? You have to apologize. He kept challenging me. You have to be more mature. The man's 80.
What am I supposed to do? His parents go to bed. His dad won't take the number one dad shirt off. He's so proud of it. And then we hear like a knock on the door. And Jerry's like, oh, okay, well, he has the place to himself. Well, this knock comes and he's expecting to get some cigars. But lo and behold, the Cubans aren't cigars, Steve. It's three Cubans, like three people, human beings from Cuba, or that's at least what we think at this point.
So he gets on the horn with Kramer. It's like, dude, real Cubans? Really? Human beings from Cuba? It's like, yeah, they're making their own cigars. You expected me to have like Cuban cigars transported? That's illegal, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm getting these people to America. I got a deal going. I need those guys here. They're cigar rollers. This is actually a pretty ingenious way to get around the law. So I don't know what the cost is to get these guys to America, but Kramer's trying to cement a deal that's pretty greasy, to put it in our Trailer Park Boys terminology. Then we cut to George, who's out with Danielle. It's not a date, but they're out together, Steve. He's in his quest to meet Neil. He's just still like leading Danielle on just to get closer to this guy, which I love.
He's money and he doesn't even realize it because they go back to Danielle's place and as they say goodbye, she goes in for a kiss. But George, he's so concerned about Neil. He's like, I got to make it back home so I don't miss Neil's call.
She's like, well, you could stay here. Like, I think she's broken up with Neil. I don't know where we're at with that, but like, she's trying to get him to come in to fuck, Steve. Like you said,
Yeah.
He's Neil and he doesn't even know it right now. It's one of those situations where it's like, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats forever. You know what I'm saying? So he wants to get the knowledge from Neil so that, even if Danielle's here, there's millions of Danielles out of there, Steve, especially in New York.
And back at the diner, Elaine, she's sitting there and she orders a pie and she strikes up a conversation with the waitress. The waitress actually liked English patient and she's just kind of turned off.
She's
and
like,
tuned out.
what did you hate about it? I thought it was pretty good. And this is where Elaine's like, sex in the tub? That doesn't work. And she's right, Steve. She's right.
The waitress walks off and now she doesn't even want to give her pie.
Yeah, I'd be like, I'm not paying for this fucking check, bitch. Like, give me that pie. But, that's what you do when you share your opinion with the world, Steve. Sometimes people take that the wrong way. And then we cut to the Mandelbaums, where Izzy's at. Jerry and his dad are paying the guy a visit just to apologize because, obviously, there's some hard feelings there, but it's not going well. She's a Spitfire. He still wants to get in the mix, even with this torn up back, Steve.
What are you doing here? Yeah. And then he sees Jerry's dad's shirt. He's like, oh, you think you're the number one dad? I see what it is now. Oh, you wanted to get me out of the paint. So now you can just walk around with this shirt thinking you're better than me?
You're
time.
Number one guy?
As he's getting out of bed, that's when he gets stuck. Like something broke. A joint went out of pocket, went out of socket or something. And he's like, oh, somebody call the ambulance.
Yeah, dude. So hard feelings all around here. The Seinfelds and Mandelbaums are now. It's like those. What's the Southern family?
Hatfields and McCoys.
It's the Florida version. Cut back to Jerry's now because now he's left. He's caused all this ruckus. He's talking to George. He can't believe what he's hearing about this chick and like what George has been up to. He's like, you're kneeling. You're Neil. Like
You out-kneeled them.
you did it. What are you doing? Kramer comes in and he's pissed. This isn't exactly what he thought because he's like, these aren't Cubans, Jerry. These are Dominicans. Okay.
I can tell. The texture, the intoxicating aroma, the cigars or the humans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. He's like, I thought they smelled pretty good, but he's like, these guys, this is second tier rolling. They roll it too tight. There's a whole thing with Dominicans that we can't get into right now, but Kramer's in a bind here. There's something to figure out, but we got 3 Dominican guys in New York City now that they might not be fit to roll. Let's put it like that. They're not working for Snoop. Cut to Elaine's work at the magazine, I believe. Mr. Peterman is her boss. And the English patient keeps coming up. Her boss, her coworkers love it. And she's sitting there biting her lip like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. And her boss finally is like, so Elaine, what do you think? And she just, instead of like saying that it sucks, she's like, oh, I haven't seen it. I have no opinion. So just to do something. And he can't believe that.
You haven't seen it? That's it. Drop everything. We're going to see it now.
Damn it. This actually happened to me, not with a boss, but somebody I knew. Like, I think I was dating a girl in California, and I just lied that said I hadn't seen a movie that I knew sucked because she wanted to go see it, and I didn't. And then I got kind of caught in the same thing. So it's just that to say, be honest.
Be
Tell
honest.
your boss it fucking blows, okay? But this is Seinfeld, Steve. Can't do that.
Yeah, that's too direct.
Yeah. So now we are at a hospital. Izzy's been transported to New York City. Jerry set him up with some sort of a specialist because of all the issues and all the bad blood. He's trying to be nice. He's trying his best just to be the better man. He's already set this guy up with a professional medical person for the back. And this Izzy guy just won't let up, Steve.
Yeah. See this? This shirt right here? This says the world's greatest dad. It's better than number 1.
Yeah. I'm the best in the world, Jerry. And he's like, okay, sure, whatever. And then as Jerry's trying to leave, he turns around. And then this guy that's old as shit shows up. And it's Izzy's son. And this guy's got the same energy as his dad. It must be a genetic thing because he's like, oh, you do this to my dad? You trying to one on my dad?
Think you're tough? Picking on an old man? Pick anything in this room and I'll lift it over my head. This one's for you, Pop. And then I think the dad, Izzy Sr., he says, pick up the TV. He's like, yeah. And then he breaks his shit. Call the ambulance. We're in a hospital.
His back's out. The Mandelbaums have notoriously just weak backs, apparently. Then we cut to Kramer, and he's with some cowboy dude. And this is the guy he's trying to set up this Cuban situation with. But this guy is not really feeling it because even though Kramer has dressed these 3 Dominican guys up like Fidel Castro in like the official Cuban military uniform, the guy's not buying it. And he's like, you know what? Deal's off. Okay. I'm not buying this shit. These guys are as Cuban as I am. Okay.
That's Fidel's brother, Dennis Castro. Dwayne, get the hell out of my office.
So now he's got 3 Dominicans, no job. Cut to the diner. George is hanging out with Danielle, and he's fully kneeled. Like, this chick's into him. She's, dating him now because I do think she's actually broken up with Neil at this point because George is so intoxicating. And George, I feel like he is not fully Neil yet because he makes a crucial mistake and he immediately, just to like cement the deal, is like, let's move in together.
Yeah.
Classic mistake, guys. Classic mistake. George, shame on you. But it's New York. So maybe it's just a rent thing. You know, you got to share rent.
He's ready to put the nail in the coffin, man. And then come back to Elaine. She's at the movies with Peterman, and she's just bored out of her mind.
Yeah. It's awful. She's sitting there trying to do it. She's coming out of her seat. And finally, she's like, this is too boring. It sucks. And Peterman, she's shocking everybody. She's just telling the theater, like, this movie sucks. Okay, guys? Ralph Fiennes is giving a fucking mid performance. Willem Dafoe's not in it enough. And all I got to see is some burnt up slug looking guy telling me about all the shit he did. And that's why this movie sucks, basically.
And then we cut back to the diner. George is talking to Jerry, and he's like, "Dude, you asked her to move in with you? Well, yeah. See if you could top that, Neil. But what if it's Neil Armstrong? Then I'm going to Mars. What if it's Neil Diamond? Shut up, Jerry.
Why are you trying to ruin this for me? Yeah, so George, he made a bad mistake. Jerry's got to deal with this Mandelbaum situation.
Kramer, you forgot that, like,
Oh,
he comes in.
Yeah. He comes in and he's like, look, guys, here's the thing. You know, this Cuban thing went sour. I've been pumping these Dominicans with all this Cuban propaganda, all this Marxist stuff, just to get them like sort of acclimated to it. And now they have no job. And you guys know what happens in communism when there's no work. Like the uprising starts, and who are they going to come after? This guy. So I need help here, guys.
And they look over, and just to the other side of the diner, the three Dominicans who posed as Cubans, like, they're just going off about something. We don't know what yet.
I mean, it's getting scary over there. It's the Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0, I think. Now we cut to the hospital. Jerry's trying to smooth over this thing. And now he's crippled two of the Mandelbaums. They're all meatheads. They're all lunatics. And then this older man shows up. And Izzy, who's like the oldest one at this point, is like, Dad. So there's an even older Mandelbaum here. And he gets brought up to speed about what's going on. And they bring up the whole TV thing. And now the oldest Mandelbaum's like, that TV, fuck this. And he's going to get in on it.
Mandelbaum.
I mean, so now he's completely just fucked the business, Steve. The Mandelbaums, there's 3 generations of them in this back place now. Who's looking over the crepes? You know what I'm saying?
We need somebody to roll those crepes, and it has to be a Mandelbaum because we only know how to tie those or wrap those crepes the best. So basically, you just need a guy who roll them now. Yeah.
Well, Jerry might have a couple of 3 guys to be exact that might know exactly how to roll something. So he leaves.
But before he does that, though, they act like, "Hey, man, we can't see the TV." Jerry comes in, he just like easily just moves it.
One arms it. He just goes, move. Jerry's a beast, apparently. This guy, we've seen him lift weights without any effort at all. Now he's lifting these gigantic 90s TVs like they're nothing. So Jerry might be on some roids. So then we cut back to the movie theater one more time. Elaine has a fucking just a meltdown. She just says she wants to die. She yells she hates it. Peterman just fires her on the spot for not liking this movie and basically lying to her. And she basically is like, you know what? That's cool because I did that. Now I can go outside. I'll see you outside.
Yeah, I'll wait in the car.
And then we cut to the Mandelbaum crepe restaurant because everyone's there now. This is sort of the culmination of the episode. It's kind of fancy. A lot of people enjoying some crepes or at least getting, the beginning of it. We find out that Elaine didn't lose her job because what happened was Mr. Peterman, after he got out of the movie, agreed to let her keep the job, but she has to go to the deserts of Tunisia and live in a cave as some sort of penance to really understand, I guess, the depths and beauty of the movie. Weird. But I guess she's getting paid for that. That's all on the arm. They're going to hook her up with a Tunisian cave. Pretty cool. But as she's having this conversation with Jerry, these Dominican guys, we find out, have been rolling these crepes. That's working out great. But all of a sudden, these crepes, this might be terrorism because these crepes start spitting hot crepe juice, whatever the fuck they're putting in these things, facializing the patrons.
And one of the people who get blasted by a crepe is Neil, who's sitting at a table with Danielle. Because at this point, Danielle, she's ready to break up with him. And like right after she breaks up, then he bites into the crepe and then just his face is singed from the crepe.
You can hear it sizzling, Steve. So we cut to a hospital. And honestly, I feel like there's a lawsuit here because everyone gets a douching of crepe juice. So there's a lot
Everybody.
of fucked up skin. These Dominican guys clearly don't let them roll a blunt because it ain't gonna hit. Rolling the shit way too tight. George is paying Neil a visit or Danielle a visit just to bring her a key to the apartment because they're moving in together. They're a thing. But she's sitting here with Neil and his hamburger face. He's wrapped up like Darkman, Steve. He looks, you can't tell. It's the Invisible Man syndrome.
And George realizes that Neil has a cane too.
I didn't even clock that. Danielle's like, I can't move in with you now. He's like, wait, what? And she's like, I have to be with Neil. He's suffering these injuries. He's got to go to a clinic in England to get better, just like in the English Patient, Steve. I don't know if you clocked that. That's
I've never seen it. So.
The English Patient is about a burnt man who doesn't remember. He's telling stories about his life to a nurse. So you see him as a non-burnt man, but he's the English Patient because he has an English accent and he's all burnt shit.
Okay.
Now, little shade of the English Patient, but now George is out some hot sniz. Danielle's going to England with Neil. She excuses herself out of the room, and as George is leaving, we hear Neil go, I win. You piece of shit. But I love that energy. That guy, Neil knows he's about to get in there again, so I love that.
But I love George's energy, the petty man he is. Before he completely leaves, he comes back into the room and snips his IV bag. Because that's the energy we rolling with.
Hell yeah. Fuck you, Neil. I mean, he could have just been like, you know what? You're right, but can you just tell me, like, what is it? He should have at least tried to get that info. You know what I'm saying? To try to go full Donahue right before you leave. But it's George Costanza. This he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. But then we cut to the credits. Elaine's on her way to Tunisia. Long flight. But as she's, getting settled in, terrorism happens here, Steve. These three guys take control of the plane. Turns out it's the Dominicans. But now they want to take the plane to Cuba because they've been completely brainwashed by Kramer. So is Elaine going to Cuba at this point? Like, what's going on here, Steve?
Yeah, she didn't get to watch Sack Lunch on the plane either because they announced that they were going to watch that. And like, oh, fuck.
Damn it. Sack Lunch, I want to see it too. Now that it keeps being brought up, I want to see that. So give me a copy.
Did they shrink the people? Did they blow the bag up? In 1998, The Man in the Iron Mask premieres. The cruel King Louis XIV of France has a secret twin brother whom he keeps in prison. Can the twin be substituted for the real king? Directed by Randall Wallace, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich, Gerard Depardieu, and Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah. I think I saw this because it was part of like an English class or something. Not my time period, but interestingly enough, it does. I don't know if you're into like the Three Musketeers. Heavily involves them because they're part of this. We get a lot of great wig work in this. So these ugly men all are wearing wigs. John Malkovich is a musketeer, which I love. Gerard Depardieu is also a musketeer, I believe. He's the fat one.
Yeah, well, his nose and Owen Wilson's nose, it bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, the fact he became famous at all is just a mystery to me because he was never handsome. Like he was even a mess at his height of it, but for some reason,
it's a French thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I didn't dig it too much. I realize it's a good movie now, and I mean, I love Liam. I love everybody in it.
Yeah,
just my time period. This always gets me. This poppy, fucking Englishy shit. I'm just never into it, Steve.
Typically, I'm not either, but because of the cast, like you said, man, it's like a changing of the guard. You have these great performers, man, like phenomenal actors: Jeremy Irons, John Malkovich, Gerard Depardieu, Gabriel Byrne, and like they're the older actors, man, more experience. And we got this new prince that's coming up in the '90s, man, because Leo Mania is fully here at this point. Titanic, it came out. Romeo and Juliet, it came out. What's Eating Gilbert Grape. It came out years ago. He got some acclaim for that. What am I missing? Basketball Diaries.
Island, I believe, that movie where he's like in like some weird cult type shit. I don't know if you remember that one.
That was around this time, man. Everything he touched was turning into gold. And I was forced to watch this in French class my freshman year. We actually went on a field trip. Anytime outside of that building was great. And
Oh, yeah.
I liked it. And then sophomore year in French 2, when it was out on VHS at that point, we watched it for like a 2-3 day stretch. And those are always welcome too. But yeah, man, it's like these Gen Xers, or they might have been older. They might be boomers, man. They're passing off their knowledge. That's how I looked at this movie, man. Like this is a young guy on a young star in the making, and you're kind of like working around these guys, learning some of their wisdom.
Leonardo plays two characters in it. He plays the
He's doing double duty.
Louis
Yeah,
or whatever, and the other one. And aren't they the sons of one of the like D'Artagnan, like the youngest musketeer one? I think that's what it is. Like,
Gabriel Byrne was the dad.
yeah,
Yeah, and
and
we find that out. Spoiler alert.
yeah, sorry, but yeah, it's just like it is that because I mean, the Three Musketeers is like this ancient things, and it's even like it's a younger version of that because we're talking about their kids and stuff. So it is a passing of the guard, and for what it is, I mean, it's got the costume work, all the technical parts of it are great. It's just not my particular cup of tea in terms of like the time period and the story. But if I had to watch something related to it, this is probably the best version of it. This or the Disney Three Musketeers. I always enjoyed that when I was a kid.
The cartoon.
No, it was a live action. It had Chris O'Donnell, I think, was D'Artagnan.
I know exactly what you're talking. Yeah.
And the one guy, I can't remember his name. The guy, he was in like Lake Placid.
Oliver Platt.
That guy, yeah, he was
Yeah.
Porthos. He was Gerard Depardieu in that one. So,
But yeah, man, shout out to all the players in this, man. I enjoyed it, and still to this day, I think it's a great watch. Like I'm like you when it comes to these period pieces, I could do without, but I consider this an outlier of them all. But that following year, 1999, Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis fight each other to a split draw after 12 rounds in one of the most controversial decisions in boxing history.
after Mike Tyson sort of went away, like this was it. And
This
these
was.
fights were fucking. I mean, these are two titans. And as far as like heavyweights, I mean, there's been some pretty decent ones since, but these are like at the Mount Rushmore. I feel like both these dudes.
Two badasses. And Lennox Lewis, he might be the baddest motherfucker to come from England. I know, like, probably from London for sure, but he might be the baddest motherfucker to come out of the whole country, man, because I didn't really give him props in his prime because I felt a certain way. I felt a certain loyalty to Mike and then Evander. So the Americans, put it that way. They hear who's this guy coming across the pond? You think you're better than us? It's go time.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was rooting against them. Remember when we had the
I
Lennox?
remember.
Yeah. So
It's Sterling.
fought Tyson, I was still, but hindsight's 2020, Steve. When you look back on this guy, I mean, this guy was a killer.
You got to give props where it's due.
Down. I mean, he took everybody down. I mean, as far as the heavyweights, he came out of it. I feel like is with the least damage too. Like he was that good.
Because even in this match, man, I mean, even though it was a split win, like Evander, his face was hamburger. I mean, his face was like Neil at the end of that Seinfeld episode, man. And you could tell in his post-match speech that he like, dude, I can't believe I got away with this. Even the commentators, they were saying like, man, no, this was all Lennox Lewis, man, because Lennox was giving him that work. Now, Evander, it wasn't one-sided. He had won some rounds because I watched this whole thing on YouTube, man. But overall, like most of the rounds went to Lennox. He just looked better out there.
Yeah. I mean, he was technically, and he was just one of those guys that had a great body for boxing where he was so tall that he had a reach that
his reach, yeah.
He could just get you, and then to go with that, I mean, he could knock you the fuck out too. I mean, he's a heavyweight. So like if he tagged you right, you went down. So and he took down Mike. You know what I mean?
Took down Mike
Maybe
twice.
Really the best Mike, but he took the motherfucker down. So you can't take that away from him. And like I said, I mean, I love Evander Holyfield too. I mean, heavyweight boxing to me, it's not the most technical, but it's always one of the most exciting because it's two guys just beating the shit out of each other. It's not like little fucking small guys moving around and getting missing punches. It's just Rocky boxing.
Yeah, two Goliaths, man. But any callbacks, honorable mentions, or takeaways?
Well, Steve, I did it last week, and you went 1 for 2. So I think we're just going to keep going with the Q&A here. I'm just going to play Alex Trebek here. Just ask you one card from the 100 questions for loving the 90s. And let's just go in the middle of the deck. We're going to cut it for you. And this is just a random card. I'm not looking at it.
All right.
We're just taking it. So here we go. Putting the rest of the cards back. Here we go, Steve. I need to get some Who Wants to Be a Millionaire like question music for this bit.
There we go.
Okay. What's the name of the movie within a movie in Scream 2?
Oh, damn. It starts with an S2, I believe. Scare.
Mm,
No, I'm fuck.
Stab.
Stab. Damn it.
And this one, I don't know. This is tough. I'm bad with years, but you might get this. In what year did The Silence of the Lambs win an Academy Award for Best Picture, Steve?
That was 90. They won it in 92.
Bing, 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 bing. You got it. 1 for 2.
Damn it.
You're gonna get 2. I got that's tough. Stab. That's like a background thing. You got to really be paying attention to remember that.
Yeah. You got to be keyed in.
Yeah, but you do like Liev Schreiber, Steve, and he was a big part of that movie. So get your shit together, okay? Sorry to go ham on you, okay?
Yeah, you're right though. I need to do better, and like I call myself a co-host on a '90s podcast.
Marijuana affects the memory.
Facts.
What about you, Steve?
1990 Wonder Years is airing Night Out, and this is the first time Fred Savage gets to kiss Winnie. Yeah.
I mean, that meant so much. She had to have been like one of my first crushes, period. She was beautiful to me as a young child. I don't know why. As I was a youngster, I wanted it, Steve. Winnie, she was exotic.
She kind of looked like Seth MacFarlane in the face, man. I
didn't know who Seth MacFarlane was at the time, Steve. I was just trying to kiss a girl, and so was Fred Savage.
Look, at the time, I thought she was hot too, and I think I just fell under the propaganda of ABC networking. But like, come on, man! Like in hindsight, like she's not Topanga level. She's not like, and people put her in that category. Like, oh, look at all these '90s hotties, and you see a collage of like Ashley Banks, Kelly Kapowski, and you got Winnie. Like, like she's not ugly, but man, she ain't.
I mean, I'm not going to argue this at all. No need to get on the soapbox. I'm just saying for the time, like when we were watching Wonder Years, we were basically the age of Fred Savage when that show was out. So it was just like seeing what you wanted to happen in your life. You know,
True.
There was a lot of Winnies out there, Steve, and we all couldn't fucking kiss a Topanga at first, but maybe a Winnie would, throw me a bone.
That's the starter pack.
Exactly.
And then
that's the step up. You know what I mean?
In 93, SNL is airing Mary J. Blige as John Goodman, and that's a classic. Look, the man is all throughout the 90s. I keep bringing up the man's name. This has one of my favorite Canteen Boy skits where he's at the party and John Goodman's just grilling him. Mike Myers, he comes, he's like, hey, so you got a girlfriend? Y'all doing the nasty? Yeah, we're doing it like all the time. Yeah. It's so good, man. And then in 99, SNL has The Coors as the musical guest and Ray Romano. That's another classic episode, man. Ma! But please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Please tell your sister that she is a douchebag. She's the biggest bitch of the family. Check out Food Show Fanatics as well as Crush Gasm on Wednesdays and our guy Clark the Shark on the podcast. This is Steve G and Matt G. But
happened in the 90s.
Matt was the fat kid, Steve was the black kid. Life wasn't always great, but you know what was? the 90s. Happened in the 90s. Yeah!
I'm a nice man.